Welcome everybody. It's a great pleasure to see you all here in such close proximity to the Lakenheath US Air Force Base. It's a particular pleasure on behalf of the Lakenheath Alliance for Peace to welcome our international guests, and we're really privileged to welcome people, friends from the United States, from Japan, from South Korea, and of course from across Europe. And we know that in many cases it's been difficult travelling and it's taken up a lot of your time, but I can't say how much we appreciate it and how it gives us the opportunity to have really serious discussions about how we oppose, how we resist US nuclear expansionism, and how we work together in solidarity. So that is really our work today, that analysis and that strategic development. Because of course the world is facing many crises, our communities are facing many crises, and underlying that are the two great existential threats, the climate catastrophe and of course the increasing threat of nuclear war. We know that nuclear arsenals of all countries with those arsenals are modernising, are increasing, and the particular challenge we face here at Lakenheath is the very likely and imminent return of US nuclear weapons. And that is part of a process going on across Europe, but not only Europe, in other parts of the globe. So that's what we will be addressing today. So our first session is looking at global dynamics, challenging US militarism and the drive to war. So we're starting off with the big picture. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Angie Zelter, who will make some opening statements.
Well, it's just great to see so many different people here, and it's especially important that we're here locally in a local village hall, right next to those two bases of Lakenheath and Mildenhall, because usually these conferences are done in cities, so I think that's really important. It's also an amazingly important time for peace, justice, human rights and environmental movements to come together right across the planet, to strengthen our relationships and build our solidarity. The major transnational corporations and the rich 1% of the global population have been working together to exploit the world's resources for themselves for a very long time. And it's our time now. All of us here, all of our friends and relatives, it's our time. They think they can rely upon a passive, ignorant and demoralised population, but we are none of those things. I hope that the Lakenheath Peace Camp has built some strong connections that will grow and bring us all more hope. This conference is just one more strand in that network. We are all here, very close to the so-called RAF bases, Lakenheath and Mildenhall, but they must be recognised for what they really are, USAF Air Force bases. So let's not call them RAF bases, let's keep calling them USAF bases. They are an essential part of the growing US militarisation of the UK and its role in supporting US imperialism. As the British Empire slowly dissolved after the Second World War, the US took over the role of dominating the world in its own interests, just like we'd done when we were in the empire, when we had our own empire. And the UK then became the US's junior partner. This partnership was, and still is, very important because of the large network of UK military bases all around the world. Its massive corporations like BP and BAE and the City of London being one of the world's financial centres. Now, I don't know if you've come across Mark Curtis, but in his book, The Racket, he explains that Britain has never had a Prime Minister that was not signed up to the US imperial project, and that this was the result of concerted efforts from Washington. He takes a look at the US National Endowment for Democracy that was created to do what the CIA had previously done secretly, working in its own interests to undermine or remove governments independent of Washington. And that included getting rid of Jeremy Corbyn before he could become Prime Minister. for those of you that don't know, he made a very clear statement that he would never use nuclear weapons. The US military is occupying large areas of British land. As of July 2024, there were at least 10,058 active duty US military personnel in the United Kingdom, and that has grown. The largest US military presence is at Lakenheath in Suffolk, and there may or may not be nuclear bombs there already. The US is spending billions of pounds upgrading US-controlled military bases in Britain to enable Washington to intercept international communications and launch military strikes more quickly. These include Fairford, Croughton, Feltwell, Fylingdales and Menwith Hill, amongst many others in the UK. And the UK has very little, if any, control over what happens on these bases or the missions that are flown from them. However, the ruling elites in both the USA and UK are seemingly content to work together to ensure that their economic interests, for the 1%, are served, backed up by military power, rather than actively working for the general public who they claim they are representing. The ensuing never-ending wars in contravention of international humanitarian law are resulting in genocide and pollution of our land, air and water. They are destroying life on our planet as they divert resources away from dealing with climate change and biodiversity loss. Unless we find our way together to a more peaceful and just world order, we will soon be living in a wasteland. Now, I could go on and on forever, but I want you to hear all these amazing speakers and get involved in all of the discussions in your little tables. So go for it.